Okay, let's just dive right in. This is a big one. Can we really celebrate what makes us different without, completely tearing apart what holds us together? Welcome to the deep dive.
We're definitely getting into some uncomfortable territory today, stuff we usually try to avoid thinking about too hard.
Yeah. So picture this. Two extremes. One world, everyone's basically a clone, same thoughts, same actions, total unity.
Okay, got it.
Now, flip it. A world with, say, 7 billion totally unique people. Each one completely singular, maybe even incomprehensible to the others.
Hmm.
Which one feels more like a prison?
Wow, yeah, that gut reaction, it tells you something, doesn't it, about
Yeah.
that fundamental tension. We want to belong desperately,
Mm-hmm.
but we also need to be, well, us, distinct.
Totally. I remember this one time years ago, I just bit my tongue, buried something I really believed, just to fit in with this group. They talked a lot about acceptance, ironically.
Oh, no, that feel.
And the unity I got, it felt awful. Like I'd sold a piece of myself. You ever felt that? That shrinking yourself?
Absolutely. That urge to just smooth over the edges, hide the awkward bits.
Yeah.
It's deeply human. You know, Jung talked about the shadow self,
Yeah.
the parts we push down, maybe even hide from ourselves just to get by. What are we sacrificing, really, when we do that for the sake of belonging?
We talk such a good game about celebrating diversity, don't we? It's everywhere. But is it conditional?
How do you mean?
Like, do we only celebrate the differences that don't actually challenge us, the ones that don't make us uncomfortable or question our own stuff?
I think you're onto something. Often, that embrace of diversity only goes so far, right up to the point where our own beliefs get questioned.
Mm-hmm.
Then, maybe not so much celebration, it's selective.
And unity out here in the real world, it's not some cozy campfire sing-along, is it? It feels more like, I don't know, a battleground sometimes, especially online. Competing truths just smashing into each other.
And the algorithms.
Yeah.
They decide who gets the megaphone.
Exactly. Whose reality gets amplified.
Yeah, the digital world is weird that way. It promises connection, but often the loudest voices just dominate. Nuance gets totally lost, and you end up in these echo chambers.
Right, where everyone just agrees with you.
Precisely. Which reinforces the divisions instead of bridging them.
And what if this unity we're nostalgic for? The simpler, maybe more homogenous past? What if it's just a myth?
A romanticized story we tell ourselves.
Yeah. A past that, let's be honest, probably excluded a whole lot of people anyway.
That yearning for a simpler time. It often conveniently forgets who paid the price for that supposed harmony, whose voices were silenced, whose unity are we really missing? It's a critical question.
I actually saw a community, it kind of imploded, trying to be more inclusive.
Yep.
Seriously, every new identity they tried to embrace just seemed to draw a new line in the sand, a new and heaven.
That's a tough paradox, isn't it? The push for finer and finer distinctions, all in the name of inclusion. Sometimes it backfires.
It felt like it created more division, not less. Was that even progress?
The more specific the categories get, the more potential fault lines you create.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
So here's a question for you listening. Deep down, are you really striving for genuine connection with people who are different? Truly different?
And be honest with yourself.
Yeah, really honest. Or are you maybe just looking for a bigger tribe, a more powerful group that just reflects back your own views, your own biases? Worth thinking about.
Socrates, right? The unexamined life.
Is not worth living, yeah. So what's really driving that push for unity? Is it connection? Or is it just the comfort of agreement? Confirmation bias? We all know the saying, united we stand, divided we fall. Sounds great. Powerful.
A classic.
But what if standing together means someone else gets pushed aside? What if our unity requires, well, a casualty? Someone has to lose for us to win.
That saying, it
Whoa.
can definitely mask a rougher reality.
Right.
Unity achieved by shutting people up
Mhm.
or deliberately pushing certain groups to the margins. It happens.
This history's full of it, isn't it? Empires demanding unity, peace through conformity.
But for the people being absorbed, it probably felt less like peace and more like being erased.
Yeah.
Dominant powers throughout history, they've often imposed their version of unity,
Yeah.
suppressing cultures, silencing dissent, the cost, individuality, difference.
Okay, think about this for a second, you listening right now. Whose voices do you kind of automatically tune out just to keep your own little community, your own comfort zone intact?
Look at your social media feed. Who do you mute? What conversations do you actively avoid?
We all do it.
Our brains are wired for it, in a way. Cognitive biases, we seek out what confirms what we already believe. It feels like unity, like community.
But it's really just walls, carefully built walls.
Exactly.
And you say you champion diversity, right? We all say it. Until until it means your group, your perspective, isn't the default anymore.
Yeah, that's the sticking point.
That's when the celebration suddenly feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? Maybe even threatening.
The real test isn't celebrating the easy stuff, the surface differences. It's about being willing to actually challenge the power structures. Maybe even giving up some privilege. Ceding the floor, that's harder.
Okay, here's a tough choice for you. Imagine you have to pick one. Belong to a group that's incredibly diverse, just every kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
but genuine connection. It feels impossible, like you're all just ships passing in the night.
Okay, option one.
Option two, a really tight-knit group, homogenous, you all get each other instantly, deep connection, but that group survives by actively excluding anyone who's different.
Wow, yeah, that's bleak either way.
Which feels worse? Which is the bleaker reality.
That really forces you to weigh things up, doesn't it? The
Mm.
breadth of diversity versus maybe the depth of connection. Can you have real unity without real understanding across those differences? Without empathy?
Just scroll through your phone,
Yeah.
any social media feed. Is that really a vibrant exchange of diverse ideas? Or is it just a bunch of separate bubbles, silos, each one totally convinced it has the only truth, pretending to be a community, but really just talking to themselves?
It's the potential of connection versus the reality of the algorithm sometimes. Those platforms can connect diverse people, sure, but they often just reinforce our existing biases. They build those silos you're talking about, mistaking sameness for unity.
So, does your open-mindedness have, like, hidden limits? Does your tolerance have an asterisk next to it?
Fine print.
Yeah. Is the unity you're actually searching for just a really comfortable cage where everyone basically agrees with you?
Oof. These questions, they force you to look at your own boundaries,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah.
Is the hunt for unity sometimes just a subtle way of wanting control?
I'll admit, part of me loves the idea of spaces where everyone is just wildly, wonderfully different, all these unique perspectives.
Uh-huh.
But there's another part of me, and this sounds ridiculous, that secretly wishes everyone just got me. Like intuitively understood where I'm coming from without me having to explain everything.
Yeah.
It's a conflict.
Oh, that's not ridiculous at all. It's totally human. That tension between wanting to be seen for who we uniquely are and also just wanting to be understood easily. It's a struggle with difference itself.
Someone once said something really blunt to me. They said, we don't actually want unity. We just want our turn to be the ones defining it.
Wow. Brutal honesty.
Yeah, it was shocking, but also incredibly revealing. It just cut right through the usual nice talk.
It really gets to the heart of the power dynamics, doesn't it? Who gets to set the terms? Defining unity often means deciding who's in and who's out.
And sometimes, bringing different people together, it doesn't create some beautiful mosaic. Sometimes it just seems to breed, I don't know, more sophisticated ways for us to dislike each other.
You see that online all the time.
Constantly nuanced animosity.
Well, yeah. If you don't have that foundation of actual empathy, that real willingness to try and understand where someone else is coming from, just being exposed to difference can unfortunately just make existing prejudices worse, create new ways to be hostile.
What about things like workplace diversity quotas? Are they genuinely moving us towards unity, towards fairness?
Or, they sometimes just window dressing.
Right. A way for institutions to look good, look moral, without tackling the real power imbalances underneath.
The valid question. Sometimes the focus is just on the numbers, the surface appearance, rather than digging into the systemic stuff that keeps things unequal. True inclusion needs more than that.
Okay, gut check time. Be really honest with yourself. Haven't you ever felt that pull when things get complicated, overwhelming, maybe just too diverse, that instinct to just retreat, go back to,
Yeah.
your own kind?
It's primal, isn't it? That desire for safety, familiarity.
Totally. Even if intellectually, diversity is good, that urge to stick with what's comfortable, it's strong.
It absolutely is. We gravitate towards the familiar.
I knew this guy once. Passionate speeches about global unity, one world, peace, love.
Just get so far.
Yeah, but he couldn't stand his next door neighbor because they voted differently. He couldn't tolerate their political sign. So what's the real value of these big abstract ideals if they just crumble the second you face a real local difference?
That disconnect. It's pretty common, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Between the values we say we hold and how we actually act when faced with difference up close, it's hard to live it out beyond the theory.
Okay, let's flip the script completely. What if your idea of a perfectly unified world, what if that's someone else's absolute nightmare? A suffocating, conformist prison.
Have you ever really thought about that? That your utopia might be their dystopia.
Yeah. It's unsettling.
Nietzsche warned about that, didn't he?
Huh.
The herd morality. What feels like harmony to one group can feel like total oppression to another. One size definitely doesn't fit all.
You say you want to build bridges, not walls. Great slogan.
We hear it a lot.
But are you actually willing to walk across that bridge and be changed by what you find on the other side?
Or do you secretly just expect everyone else to cross over to your side of the bridge?
Exactly. Real dialogue, real connection. It means being open to being influenced, right? Having your own views challenged, not just waiting for everyone else to agree with you.
It requires vulnerability.
Big time. Now, think about any historical golden age you've heard about. An era of great unity, peace, whatever.
Okay.
Whose stories are missing from that picture? Whose voices were silenced to make that harmony possible? Whose silence was the price?
Yeah, those historical narratives,
Yeah.
they're often very selective. They smooth over the rough edges, omit the experiences of the marginalized. It gives us this sanitized, incomplete version of the past.
So here's a thought. Maybe unity isn't actually the ultimate prize.
Interesting. Go on.
Maybe the friction itself,
Yeah.
the constant rubbing together of different perspectives, different ways of being. Maybe that's the essential thing, the engine for growth, even if it's uncomfortable, maybe even painful sometimes.
What if conflict, handled constructively, is actually necessary for progress?
Right, that clash of viewpoints. Yeah, it causes discomfort, but maybe it's also the catalyst for new ideas, for critical thinking, for society actually evolving.
It certainly can be. It forces us out of complacency.
Could it be, and this is a tough one to face, could it be that your passionate call for unity is actually coming from a place of fear?
Fear of what?
Fear of losing your own identity,
Yeah,
your own
yeah.
relevance, in a world that maybe doesn't automatically put your perspective at the center anymore.
That's digging deep.
Yeah.
Our desire for unity might be tangled up with anxiety about change, about losing status or privilege in a more diverse world. It's subconscious maybe, but potentially there.
You probably still think unity means everyone holding hands and agreeing, right?
Yeah.
What if? What if it just means we manage to agree not to kill each other over our differences?
That's a much lower bar.
Shockingly low, maybe. But perhaps more realistic. A baseline for just coexisting peacefully, even with deep disagreements.
A more pragmatic view, perhaps.
Hmm.
Focusing on preventing violence rather than achieving total consensus, which might be impossible anyway.
Okay, here's a line to chew on. Diversity without empathy is just a countdown to conflict.
Hmm.
And unity without justice is just oppression with good PR.
Wow. Let that one hang there for a second. That really ties it all together, doesn't it? Diversity, unity, empathy, justice. They're all interconnected. You can't really have one meaningfully without the others. Take one away and the whole thing falls apart.
So back to that first question. Which vision really suffocates you more? The messy, maybe chaotic, unfiltered diversity? Or the quiet, maybe eerie, silent conformity of absolute unity?
There's no easy answer there, is there? It's an ongoing internal debate. Wrestling with our own comfort zones, our deepest values about being an individual versus being part of a group.
If any of this struck a chord today, made you feel a bit uneasy, maybe share it. Share it with someone who seems really, really sure about their us versus them view of the world.
Maybe we could all use a little less certainty right now.
Definitely.
Because having those challenging conversations, even when they're difficult, that's how we grow, how we understand ourselves and others better. It requires critical self-reflection.
What if? What if this whole relentless chase for unity is just a kind of socially acceptable mask, the way to hide our absolute terror of being truly alone with our own unique, maybe weird, maybe unsettling differences?
That's a chilling thought,
Yeah.
that the external search for unity is actually a way to avoid looking inward,
Yeah.
facing our own contradictions, the discomfort of just being us.
Which is actually more dangerous in the long run, a society that's visibly fractured, openly grappling with its diversity, warts and all, versus a society that looks unified, marching in lockstep, but is maybe marching blindly towards disaster because nobody dares to dissent. Which scenario should keep us up at night?
Yeah, that's superficial unity, the kind that silences critical thinking, can be incredibly dangerous,
Yeah.
much more so than a society that's messy but at least wrestling with the real issues.
We spend so much time curating our online worlds, right? Building these little echo chambers of manufactured unity. Everyone agrees, everyone gets the same jokes.
It feels safe.
Comfortable, totally. And then we step outside into the actual messy, unpredictable real world with all its real diversity, and we're shocked. It feels jarring, maybe even hostile, because we've forgotten what it's like. We've built this fragile illusion.
That disconnect between the curated online space and the friction of genuine diversity in the physical world, it's huge.
Hmm.
And it can make reality feel much harder to navigate.
Think about biology for a sec. A system where every single cell is identical.
Not good.
Right. It's not unity. It's a tumor. It's cancer. Is a society striving for absolute sameness any different, really? It's a deeply uncomfortable analogy, but maybe useful.
Biological metaphors can be powerful. Lack of diversity at almost any level usually leads to weakness, fragility, less ability to adapt. Resilience comes from difference, often.
Okay, take a moment right now. Mentally list maybe
Uh-huh.
2 or 3 opinions you've dismissed or just ignored this past week. Diverse opinions.
Okay, now be brutally honest with yourself. Did you dismiss them in the name of unity? Or was it really just about your own comfort? Keeping things easy for yourself? That's a hard inventory to take.
Yeah, that kind of honest self-reflection, looking at the edges of our own tolerance, why we shut down certain ideas. It's crucial if we want to genuinely engage with difference.
Are you sometimes so desperate to be inclusive that you end up watering everything down?
Yeah.
Diluting every strong belief until it's just bland,
Yeah.
inoffensive,
Yeah.
nothing.
Trying not to offend anyone.
Yeah. Is that actually unity? Or is it
Right.
just apathy?
Yeah.
Apathy pretending to be tolerance?
Yeah.
Have we sacrificed all conviction just to avoid awkwardness?
It's a risk. That excessive focus on just smoothing everything over, it can lead to avoiding challenging ideas altogether, reluctance to grapple with anything potentially controversial.
I heard this story once from a refugee, really stark. He said, they threw this big, vibrant festival celebrating my culture. It was beautiful.
Sounds positive.
Then, he said, the very next day, many of those same people voted against the policies that would have let my family join me.
Oof. Yeah. That's diversity as decoration.
Exactly. Just window dressing.
That's-
Sobering thought.
Right. Performative diversity.
Yeah.
When it's not backed up by real action on systemic inequality, it can feel incredibly hollow, even harmful.
So what is the real cost of that kind of superficial unity? The kind that just politely ignores the deep structural inequalities? Who picks up the tab for that illusion of harmony?
Because the bill always comes due, eventually, doesn't it?
It always is.
A unity that doesn't address injustice.
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable. It actually props up the very divisions it claims to be overcoming.
You might think, okay, diversity automatically equals strength. It's a common trope.
We hear it all the time.
But if that diversity isn't managed well, if there's no empathy, no real effort to understand, it can just create more fault lines, more ways for the same old tribalism to creep back in.
We see that playing out in political polarization constantly. Diversity isn't some magic bullet. It takes work. Real, intentional effort, empathy, a commitment to understanding different views. Then it can become a source of strength, of resilience, but not automatically.
And here's something insidious. You don't actually have to hate diversity to undermine unity. Not at all.
What do you mean?
All you have to do is value your own comfort, your own familiar viewpoints more than you value genuine connection with people who see the world differently. That's it.
That's a quiet thread, isn't it?
Yeah, it's subtle. But it erodes everything.
That pull towards comfort, avoiding anything that makes us feel dissonance. It's human, but it can really get in the way of engaging meaningfully with people who aren't like us.
And who gets to decide what common ground even is? Who draws that circle?
Is it the majority? The loudest people, the ones who've historically held the power.
Yeah. And what happens to the people, the perspectives, the needs that fall outside that definition? Where do they fit in?
Ultimately, it always comes back to power, doesn't it?
Seems like it.
Defining common ground is rarely neutral. It almost always reflects the dominant view, and that can easily marginalize other voices, other experiences.
I used to be all about unity at all costs. Really passionate about it.
I think a lot of us go through that phase.
Yeah. Then I slowly started to realize the cost was almost always someone else's voice being shut down. Someone else's truth being ignored because it was inconvenient.
That's a painful realization.
It was, but necessary. Personal growth, I guess. Reevaluating those deeply held beliefs, seeing the unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
A historian told me something once that really stuck with me, kind of chilling. He said, every big, passionate call for national unity, look closely. At its core, there's always an enemy.
Another.
Yeah. Real or invented, someone to unify against.
Okay. Who's the perceived enemy in your vision of unity? That's worth sitting with for a while.
That construction of an essays often relies heavily on defining a them. A common adversary solidifies the group, sure, but often with really dangerous exclusionary results. There's a level of diversity, isn't there? A kind of difference that actually terrifies you deep down. A perspective so fundamentally alien to yours that it shakes the very foundations of how you see reality. We probably don't talk about that kind of diversity much, do we?
No, we tend to stick to the more manageable differences.
What does that truly terrifying difference represent for you?
Our deepest anxieties often surface right there, don't they? When our core assumptions about the world, about our place in it, are fundamentally challenged.
Have you ever been in a diverse group, maybe at work, maybe socially, and you just stayed silent, held back your honest thought because you were afraid?
Afraid of what?
Afraid that saying what you really thought would just shatter the fragile peace? That carefully constructed illusion of unity everyone was trying so hard to maintain?
Oh, yeah. That social tightrope. It's exhausting.
We all walk it sometimes.
That pressure to keep up appearances, maintain harmony, it often kills real conversation. Prevents us from actually exploring the differences that are right there under the surface.
Maybe there is no perfect static balance point between diversity and unity. Maybe that's the wrong way to even think about it.
So what's the alternative?
Maybe it's just a constant negotiation, often messy, sometimes kind of brutal, a negotiation of power, of identity, of what it even means to belong. It's dynamic, it's ongoing, it's never solved.
So cohesion isn't a destination you arrive at. It's the process itself,
Yeah.
constantly being reshaped by power shifts, changing ideas about who we are.
Yeah. And maybe you're not really the noble champion of diversity you like to think you are, or the dedicated builder of unity you aspire to be.
Ouch. Okay.
Maybe, just maybe, deep down, you're simply a human being terrified. Terrified of being misunderstood, or worse, terrified of becoming irrelevant in a world that's changing faster than you can keep up with.
Our motivations, they're complex, aren't they? Tangled up with our own needs for validation, for recognition just, for feeling like we belong somewhere. It's rarely as simple as the labels we use.
So here's the ultimate choice, maybe. If truly embracing the full, mind-boggling spectrum of human diversity means you have to let go of that comfortable, familiar version of unity you've always held on to.
Which one do you sacrifice?
Yeah. Which ideal are you ultimately willing to give up? That's the question we all have to face eventually, isn't it? Painful, maybe, but unavoidable.
It really forces a critical look at core values. What kind of society do we actually want? What trade-offs are we willing to make?
You just cannot build real, lasting unity on a foundation of unacknowledged privilege. You can't.
It won't hold.
No, it's not a bridge connecting people. It's just a performance, a show, a fragile facade that's going to crumble the second any real pressure is applied.
Genuine unity has to involve dismantling those systemic inequalities, consciously recognizing how unearned privilege shapes everything, our experiences, our perspectives.
And if your group's unity, your sense of togetherness, relies on demonizing some other group, creating a common enemy to rally against.
That real unity.
Or is it just a shared delusion? Built on exclusion and fear. It's seductive, that kind of solidarity, but dangerous.
Yeah, unity built by scapegoating another.
Yeah.
That's false. It's destructive. It only deepens the divisions in the long run.
Your insistent demand for unity when you haven't first acknowledged the real, legitimate grievances people have.
What is that really?
It's basically telling people who are hurting to just shut up. Bleed quietly, don't make a fuss.
That's a harsh truth.
But it's often what's happening, isn't it? We avoid confronting it.
Yeah, those calls for unity that ignore the underlying injustice. Marginalized communities often hear that as a demand to just accept their situation. Forget about seeking justice. Suffer in silence.
When future generations look back at us, at this moment, how we're navigating this increasingly diverse, complex world, what will they see?
Will they see us as pioneers? People who figured out how to build genuine unity across difference?
Or will they see us as the architects of even smarter, maybe more subtle forms of division? What's our legacy going to be?
It's a sobering thought. Our choices now, they'll have consequences for generations. On social cohesion, on justice.
Maybe. Maybe true unity, the kind that lasts. Maybe it's not found in some imaginary world where we're all the same.
Maybe it's found somewhere else entirely.
Maybe it's found in the shared human courage, the guts to actually navigate our profound differences without resorting to destruction, whether that's physical violence or emotional attacks or societal exclusion.
That's a much harder path.
Way harder. But maybe, ultimately more hopeful, a more resilient vision.
A unity based not on erasing difference, but on developing our collective muscle to engage with difference constructively, respectfully, even when it's hard.
I'll confess, I've done both. I've definitely fetishized diversity sometimes, trying to seem interesting or worldly, and I've absolutely clung to familiar kinds of unity when I felt scared or insecure.
We probably all have, in different ways.
Yeah. And both felt kind of like a lie in retrospect. The real truth, I suspect. It's somewhere in that messy, uncomfortable, terrifying space between those two ideals.
Acknowledging our own biases, our own contradictions, those conflicting desires we have around diversity and unity,
Hmm.
that feels like a crucial step towards something more authentic, more nuanced.
Because ultimately, aren't we all just messy, contradictory, yearning for belonging like crazy, but also terrified of losing ourselves, our uniqueness?
That sounds like the human condition, pretty much.
Right. And maybe admitting that messy reality,
Yeah.
maybe that's the only real starting point for genuine connection. Beyond the buzzwords, beyond diversity and unity as these neat, clean labels.
Recognizing that shared, complicated humanity, that could be the foundation. A connection that goes deeper than the labels and actually embraces the full, complex reality of human experience.
Remember, right back at the start, I asked if diversity kills unity.
I remember.
The more important question now, I think, is this. What kind of unity is so went, so brittle, that it can be destroyed just by the mere presence of difference?
If your unity shatters that easily, maybe it wasn't real unity in the first place.
Exactly. Maybe it was something else entirely.
A unity that can't handle complexity, richness, difference.
Hmm.
It's fundamentally fragile, unsustainable,
Unity isn't the absence of diversity, it's the active presence of justice.
and justice.
And justice, my friends, is almost never comfortable. Mic drop.
That's powerful. A truly unified society has to be a just society.
Yeah.
For everyone. Even when getting there means shaking things up, challenging the status quo, embracing that discomfort.
So if anything we talked about today really hit a nerve, something you maybe didn't expect, I really encourage you, listen again.
Lean into that discomfort.
Yeah. Don't shy away from it. That feeling. That's often where the real understanding starts.
Absolutely. Engaging with ideas that challenge us even when they feel unsettling. That's how we grow intellectually, personally. It's essential.
And if this deep dive made you question even one tiny thing you thought you knew for sure about us and them, please share it.
Pass it on.
Yeah, share it with someone who maybe really needs to ask themselves these same difficult questions. Let's keep this conversation going, especially when it gets uncomfortable.
Because exploring these complex issues,
Yeah.
it requires ongoing dialogue,
Yeah.
a willingness to constantly challenge our own assumptions and, yeah, the beliefs of others, too. It never really ends.
This has been the deep dive. We're not here to give you easy answers. We're here to hopefully offer you better, maybe harder, questions about the very foundations of what you believe.